And residents being forced out of their Treasure Island homes, demanding answers. Some 24 families will be uprooted so the Navy can clean up toxic material buried in the ground beneath their townhomes. At tonight's meeting, families wanted details about the move and assurances that they're going to be saved. So why are people still living over contaminated soil on Treasure Island? That's the question being asked by an expert hired by the Navy to survey the island. He's speaking out for the first time, and the investigative unit has uncovered new evidence suggesting the Navy hasn't revealed just how much it knew about the extent of radiation on Treasure Island. Investigative reporter VICKY has details. She joins us live.
Well, Jess, we are hearing firsthand tonight from Don Wattsworth. He has never spoken publicly before. His company was hired on a multi-million-dollar contract to conduct routine tests for radiation on Treasure Island. He says the Navy told him it didn't expect he'd find anything. But as you'll hear tonight, that wasn't the case. When you first arrived in 2007, the Navy said there was no radioactive material on Treasure Island.
Correct.
What did you find?
Radioactive material.
Don Wadsworth is a radiation expert. His company has worked on many military cleanups of radioactive sites, including Hunters Point and the Navy bombing yard on the island of Vieques. In 2007, Wadsworth and his team at New World Environmental were hired to work at Treasure Island, where they are still working today. When you first got to the island, what was your job?
Performed surveys of areas that were being excavated for treatment for chemical contamination.
Wadsworth says his surveys found significant amounts of radiation throughout the island. In your professional opinion, should people be living at Treasure Island?
No.
Can you explain why?
Well, just from these pictures that you've shown me here, you've got significant contamination levels.
He's referring to this picture obtained by the investigative unit from a Navy report released to regulators last month. It shows radiation readings taken on Bigelow Court, a building that has never been leased to residents because it's a known former solid waste disposal site. But it wasn't until this year that the Navy identified it on this map as being radiologically impacted. Wadsworth says it's an example of the Navy's reluctance to reveal the nature and extent of radiation on Treasure Island. Do you feel the Navy has actively tried to cover up this information?
I really don't have a way of knowing what they're doing, but certainly it does appear that way.
But the information that we get from the Navy is all denial, saying everything is fine and there's nothing to worry about, and we haven't found anything that is of alarming at this point.
Paris and Cindy Hayes have lived on the island for 11 years. They're among the 24 families who were abruptly informed last month they have to move in April.
They told us that our relocation was based on the fact that the Navy needed to do more surveillance on the property, but it was not related to any radioactive material findings.
But in this map, the Hayes building and 5 other residential buildings were recently identified as on or near areas of radiological impact, and like Bigelow Court, now need to be surveyed for radiation.
There isn't evidence of radiological materials being buried where people are currently living.
Treasure Island Director Bob Beck. How would you characterize how straightforward the Navy has been with residents in informing them about the radiation here on Treasure Island?
I think they've been extremely straightforward in informing both TIDA and the residents.
Is there any radiation near the buildings where the folks are being asked to move out?
Forward your questions to me and I'd be happy to ask your questions, okay? But not right now.
We requested an interview with Navy co-chair Keith Foreman, but his office said he wasn't available, so we tried to speak with him before a public meeting.
Because you're interrupting the introduction of the meeting.
The meeting doesn't start for another 15 minutes, sir.
That's not true. The official part of the agenda starts at 7.
Mm-hmm. And
prior to that, we have a holiday session here with the potluck, and you're interrupting that. So please refrain from interrupting that. Thank you.
You're not able to answer any questions during the potluck, sir?
I said thank you.
We play with thousands of people's lives out here. 1,000 people's lives.
It's been a frustrating ordeal for the 2,800 people who live and work on Treasure Island, whose voices have grown louder as more information surfaces, contradicting the Navy's claims about the contamination.
So you come here and you tell us what you want us to hear. But I think you need to go back to whoever it was and let them know that the tenants on Treasure Island is no longer buying
Contractor Don Wattsworth says 6 years into his work at Treasure Island, he has this assessment.
My job is protect people and the environment, and so it's just not getting done.
The Navy provided a statement today reaffirming that it is working with regulators to, quote, investigate and clean up contaminated areas on Treasure Island, and that the state, city, and Navy do not have any data indicating a risk to human health to current residents. In the meantime, a $1.5 billion development plan for the land is on hold until the island is cleaned up. Janelle, Jess?
Okay, thanks so much, Vicki. Very insightful. Now, if you have a tip for our investigative unit or Vicki, give us a call at 888-996-TIPS, or you can send us an email to the unit at NBCBayArea.com.